The Icon Sting is on his farewell tour. Revolution 2024 will be his retirement match. In honor of that, TK gave him one of the worst gifts I've ever seen or heard about. The only reason it isn't number one on the worst gifts that I know about is because I had a friend who one year got a Fuji ball for Christmas, and he was so upset by that he re-gifted the Fuji ball to the person who gave it to him. So it's a double whammy where Ric Flair was a one-time gift. What's your thoughts on Ric Flair?
I don't know if we want to get into my thoughts on Ric Flair.
But the gift of Ric Flair.
The gift of Ric Flair is a pretty bad gift. I mean, shout out to Sting for acting like he was excited to see Ric Flair, and yeah, that's just Tony Khan should have just got him a pet rock. But other than that, I am excited for Sting's farewell tour.
His acting for the gift was pretty on point.
He definitely deserves an Oscar nomination.
Having said that, minus that setback, Sting's run in AEW has been a gift to us fans. It's been booked well when you can't say that for everything in AEW. Looking at that Hangman Page CM Punk feud, that I will always ignore the saying of forgive and forget. It is on site for me and TK. I hope he can wrestle because I was all state at Great Falls High School, class of 99. Let's fantasy book Sting's retirement match. Before we get to that, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the page in honor of Sting and all that he has given the wrestling community. All right, now I'm going to tag my partner in. How do you fantasy book Sting's last match in AEW?
So originally, I had two options that popped into my head, and the first option was for his last match to be with Kenny Omega. And the only reason I picked Omega really is because of his ability in the ring, and I feel like that would get us the best in-ring match for Sting for his last match. He could kind of almost carry Sting through it. But the second option I feel is the better option because it has kind of a built-in storyline, and that would be MJF. So, Sting versus MJF is kind of a poetic ending for Sting because, Sting put himself on the map in wrestling when him and Flair battled for the NWA World Title at the first Clash of the Champions. And that went to the time limit, so Sting took the World Champion to the limit. And he made everyone believe that he was going to beat Flair for the world title. So that's kind of where the poetry comes in, is you let him end his career by taking on MJF for the AEW world title. It doesn't have to go to the time limit, but you could kind of build it up to where you think Sting's going to pull it out and kind of, go out as a world champion and then, break everyone's hearts and MJF comes out as the victor. But it also would help AEW because you could build a lot of great TV around it. I think it could turn MJF heel, which he's better as a heel than a babyface. And, Flair came in and he's big on wanting to... He said he wants to wrestle MJF. Nobody wants that, but he could interact with MJF. They can kind of cut some promos about Sting while Sting's not there, I think would be cool. And then ultimately... your next main event feud could be Darby Allin coming in to kind of avenge the loss of his mentor idol Sting and feud with MJF for the world title. And that gets Darby to the main event picture, which I think was originally the idea of pairing him with Sting, was to get him to that next level. And I think this is a way to do it.
I do like that idea because I always feel like Darby is going to get that world title win, and this is probably one of the cleanest ways to get it storyline-wise, and with a heel MJF and then the ultimate underdog Darby Allin.
Yeah.
It works well. That's the way I would really like to go with it for building Darby Allin up as well, and the idea, I just think Sting would pull off what you said, that match really well, and the crowd would be into it. Where it's like, oh, is he really gonna retire as the champ? And he
Yeah,
breaks the hearts. What I like about the Kenny Omega one is kind of the idea of icon face icon, and now Kenny Omega transitions into the AEW role of icon, the icon Sting. Now it's
yeah,
the icon Kenny Omega,
yeah,
and this best bout machine Kenny Omega, we can get him in AEW now, where he doesn't have to do dumbass storylines looking at that Callis family. Like, who cares
yeah,
about that? Like, what we want is the icon Kenny Omega, where we just get to see him put on 5, 6, 7, 10-star
yeah,
matches. Like, that's what we
yeah,
want, and maybe we can get that if his last match is Sting and he takes the role of icon.
yeah. Omega, I would have loved that, the Omega Sting thing, because, Sting has a history of wrestling guys that are considered the best in the world at the time. Ric Flair, I got to give credit to Ric Flair. Ric Flair was the best when he wrestled Sting, and he has history with AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, Bret Hart. So he has a history of wrestling these guys that are considered the best in the world, and that's where Kenny Omega fits in. And I think it would have been cool if you were going to go the Kenny Omega route instead of doing Ric Flair and Sting, if you did the Great Muta and Sting, because they have a history, they have an iconic feud, and also Muta is this legend in Japan, and that's where Kenny kind of made his name. So I think that you could have got cool interactions there. But not just the storyline with MJF is better, but I feel like it's a main event feud where I think if you do Kenny Omega and even Adam Copeland Edge, I don't think that's a main event match for Sting. I think MJF is a main event for the world title, so I'd like Sting to go out in the main event, let him close the show.
I like the idea of that main event, and you're right. They probably wouldn't let him get the main event with Kenny Omega. The idea of him face Adam Copeland Edge, I have no appeal to. I don't
Yeah,
want to see it.
that doesn't interest me at
Yeah.
all. I get maybe some people are interested in why they would be interested, but to me, they don't go together. They don't fit. Like there's no story there to me. It's just two old wrestlers. Like yeah, they have their paths have never crossed, but I've never been clamoring for a Sting versus Edge feud.
Two old wrestlers is the perfect example. It's like let's use Sting's last match to the benefit of the wrestling world,
Yeah,
whereas Edge, no one's gaining anything. We get a great storyline with MJF, and it's MJF.
yeah,
It's a young talent. Same thing if we did a Kenny Omega. Like I said, you can lean towards him being the new icon now. So
yeah.
you're putting someone over.
Maybe he takes that moniker and you could build off of it. Edge, I don't think you build off of anything with Edge. There's nothing to go to after that. He's just gonna like sidestep to another feud. Omega, maybe you could work around that the icon gimmick, like stealing that name. But MJF, like I said, you could just put in Darby Allin, and then there's your next world title feud, and you're building off of Sting.
Speaking of Darby Allin as well, that's why it works with the MJF feud, but also just give me a tag match with Darby Allin. Darby Allin and Sting face a really good team instead of Sting face Adam Copeland. Like that
Yeah,
does nothing. Like you
yeah,
said, it's Edge. Adam Copeland's just going to sidestep to something else, and we probably will forget that he even had Sting's last match. Where
yeah,
with Darby Allin's storyline and MJF, we're going to remember it. With Kenny Omega and Sting, we're going to remember it. No one, realistically, if they're being honest with themselves, no one is going to remember
yeah.
Sting face Adam
It
Copeland.
would basically be Angle versus Baron Corbin.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing came of it. Nothing. Nobody remembers it. It was just a throwaway match for
And
nothing.
what, like 3 years later, Angle's like, yeah, I wish that wasn't my last
Yeah,
match.
and
Like,
Corbin's on NXT. Like I still like Corbin, but
yeah.
you did nothing with it. He didn't go up from that.
I think MJF would probably lead to Darby Allin getting the title, which is
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
All right. In the comments, let us know your views on Ric Flair as a gift, and who do you want to see Sting wrestle for his retirement match in AEW?